Nice to have your company on Sports Day on this Tuesday evening. Well, the Brisbane Lions have made their way south, all the way south to Tasmania for their pre-season camp. Joining us on the line is Brisbane Lions coach Chris Fagan. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Shane. Good to be with you.
How are the players adjusting to the conditions down in Tassie? I can only imagine that it's a little bit cooler than what you're used to in Brisbane at this time of year.
Yeah, the heat and humidity of Brisbane this time of the year is pretty tough, so it's good to get a little bit of relief from that and come down to Launceston and train. Great oval to train on, University of Tasmania Oval, beautiful surface, and it's just part of what we try to do over the pre-season is preserve the energy of our players a little bit, and getting in the cooler climate certainly assists that.
What's been the biggest aim of the pre-season camp in Tasmania this year?
Really, it's just with the 6 or 7 players we've just brought to the club, the new draftees, and obviously Charlie Cameron and Luke Hodge, just getting away together for a week. That building of relationships and bond, and helping those guys understand our game plan and the sort of training and cultural environment we sort of try to have at the footy club. It all helps when you get together for a week, and that's the main aim of it. And obviously with the staff too, they get to know those new players pretty well.
I heard you talking earlier today about toughening this group up. Has that been one of your biggest challenges during your first 12 months at the Brisbane Lions to, I guess, add that physicality into this group?
Oh yeah, it's part of what we need to do because we're a very, very young group. So it's a lot of things that it's getting stronger in the gym. Body's maturing. Learning the intensity of AFL footy, training under pressure so that you can get your technique right for contested ball. It's what goes on between your ears as well, your intent. So it's a number of different things, and it's just a natural progression in their development. It's not a weakness; it's more just something we've got to get better at as we grow older and mature as a team. How
do you find that line between a tough pre-season and a pre-season that's too tough? We heard last week that Melbourne players didn't want to go on a pre-season camp that the coaches had arranged because they said it was too brutal ultimately. And how do you find that balance in what's right for your players?
It's a difficult question to answer. I suppose you're always trying to push the limits, but what you don't want to do is injure your players. That's the last thing you want at this time of the year. And right at the present time, we've got a really healthy list, and we want to keep it that way. We've got a couple of bumps and bruises at training this morning, but I think, just in terms of your footy training, you just got to educate your players when you're doing tackling and competitive type work that they don't, drive the knees into someone unnecessarily or throw someone to the ground harder than they should. Just got to look after your teammates a little bit. I think they're the sort of things you need to educate your players around. And then, the other types of camps, you can go and do treks and cycling and army type camps. You just need to liaise with the people who take those camps to sort of keep the level of safety where it should be, because ultimately we want all our blokes fit to play footy when the season starts. If
your players, came to you and said, "Oh, coach, this is just too tough, and this isn't the kind of thing that we want to do," or if the leaders of the group came to you, do you respect that, them being able to approach you about what they feel is right for themselves?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable the way we operate at clubs these days. You've got to listen to your players. Us coaches, we don't always get things right, and the sort of culture we've tried to create here at Brisbane is certainly one where we listen to our players, and certainly one where they listen to us. So it's sort of mutual, and you've got to have that respect for each other and be reasonable about things. It doesn't mean you always agree. You might agree to disagree, but you should always listen.
You obviously spent plenty of time with Luke Hodge at Hawthorn. Seeing him out there on the training track now as the coach of the Brisbane Lions, does he continue to engage with the playing group and especially the young players as much as ever?
Oh, yeah. We all got a glimpse of Hodgie during the season when he was marked up in that game against the Adelaide Crows, I think it was. That's probably something I've known for a long time, because I've had the great privilege of being able to work with him. So to have him here at the Brisbane Lions, being able to pass on his knowledge of the game, both on and off the field, to our players is an absolute bonus. Given we're so young, I'm sure that he can help us accelerate the development of our players.
It was spoken about late last year, the go-home factor, especially when you lost Josh Shackey back to Victoria. Are you confident that the club's been able to counteract that, especially bringing in a number one draft pick such as Cam Rayner? Obviously, Hugh McCluggage is still quite young as well. Are you happy with the way that the club has said, look, we're committed to keeping this group together as much as possible?
Yeah, look, I think the go-home factor is probably a thing of the past in terms of the Brisbane Footy Club. I know there 2 or 3 years ago, a whole lot of players left. We had one player leave this year, and that's not unusual. Most clubs have somebody go home. You know, I remember was at Hawthorn, Bradley Hill wanted to go home to Perth. You know, so it happens. What you try and do is you just try and create the best possible environment that you can for your players, so that they feel like they're improving, that they're supported, that they've got good mates, all of those sorts of things. And bottom line is, most of the time, 95 to 98% of your players will stay, and every now and then you'll lose someone because that desire to go home is just so strong, and it's a strong thing when it gets hold of somebody. So we feel content with where we're at as a club at the moment. We think our players are a happy group, and we'll just continue to try and provide that sort of environment for them.
I've got to say, on draft night when we interviewed Cam Rayner, I couldn't have been more impressed with how grounded he was and what he was about to embark on. He really seemed to play it, Chris, that's ready to go. Now, I'm not a senior coach, but from your viewpoint, do you see him playing plenty of senior footy in 2018?
Well, hopefully. Hopefully all of our drafted players get to play a bit of senior footy this year. Cam's a really humble guy. He's a great competitor. You can see when he trains, especially with the footies, it's with a lot of intent and a lot of purpose. He's going about the business of earning the respect of his teammates. Certainly when you watch him train, he's got some special abilities. He's incredibly strong and powerful. So I think he's really keen to prove that he deserves to be the number one pick in this year's draft, and hopefully we can see him play a bit of senior football next year. Another
player who'll be after a lot of senior football but has been on the list a lot longer and around AFL traps is Alan Kristensen, just dogged by that collarbone injury, but all the reports say he's up and going. Do you expect him to be a much more reliable figure in 2018?
Yeah, well, that's the expectation. He's done every bit of training so far. He could nearly have played probably towards the end of last season, but we just thought it was best to give the shoulder time to settle down because it has dogged him for a couple of years. But Alan's a real leader around the place. He managed to do that even when he was injured. He's incredibly enthusiastic, and he's very much looking forward to playing with the team this year. He'll be like a new recruit for us, really. You think about it, both he didn't play any footy at all, and Mitch Robinson played about 6 or 7 games last year. So there's a couple of experienced players along with Hodgie and Charlie Cameron who can bring a bit of experience to our young team.
It sounds as though everything's going to plan, and that's what you want when you're still 4 months out from the start of the new season. Chris, just before I let you go, obviously the match review panel has made big changes. Michael Kristensen now the main man. Your thoughts on having the one man overlooking all incidents across the weekend?
I think it will help with the standardisation of decision making, and keeping consistency. I think the more people you have, the more difficult it is to maintain that. It's a lot of pressure on Michael, but I'm sure he's up to the job.
Yeah, I think if anyone is, it would certainly be Chris. So, Chris, I appreciate your time. All the very best to you and your family for Christmas, and we look forward to seeing the Brisbane Lions come out when they run out in 2018.
Same to you, Shane. Cheers, mate.
Chris Fagan, the senior coach of the Brisbane Lions, joining us here on Sports Day. We're here with thanks to Kia and Red Energy, and don't forget, Kia's open season is now on with match-winning deals across the range. Plus, all Kias come with Australia's best 7-year factory warranty. And Red Energy, a 100% Australian-owned gas and electricity retailer. Switch today. Call Red's local centre on 131 806. Up next for 3AW listeners, it's money news for our regional listeners. Another hour of Sports Day still to come.